The NBA playoffs are finally here and the matchups are already underway. It was a wild regular season with teams changing seeds every single day from start to finish. Finally though, it is all over and we can get into the playoffs. I felt like it would be unfair if I switched some of my opinions after some of the series have started, so if some of these predictions are off or already not possible, that is why. But in this video, I'll be predicting every single matchup as well as who I think is going to come out on top as the 2023 NBA champions. First up in the Western Conference is the 1-seeded Nuggets facing the final team to make it in the playoffs, the 8-seeded Wolves. They split the season series this year, but one of the Nuggets' losses came without a full-strength team, and the Wolves had the same thing, losing 2 games without Karl-Anthony Towns. Jokic has looked absolutely unstoppable this season and will likely finish either second or first in MVP voting, but towards the end of the year, both he and the Nuggets did not look at their best. In their final 4 games, they went 1-3, and in their last 7, they went 2-5. Despite this though, their consistency throughout the season gives me confidence they'll take care of business pretty easily. Not without some hiccups though, as I think it'll take them 6 games to get through. Up next is one of the bigger rivalries in the NBA right now, and probably the biggest in the first round, and it is between the Grizzlies and the Lakers. The Lakers won the season series between the two teams, going 2-1, and with AD returning to his all-star level play, they could give a lot of teams a tough series. Despite this though, their struggle to beat a Wolves team without Rudy Gobert makes me think that Jaren Jackson Jr. could have a dominant series in the paint as long as he stays out of foul trouble. Mix that with the fact that I don't think the Lakers have anyone that can guard Ja Morant, and it just feels like a recipe for a Grizzlies win. So in this series, I'm going to take the Grizzlies to beat the Lakers in 6 games and move on to the second round where they'll meet either the Kings or the Warriors. And that series between the Kings and Warriors could be one of the best of the entire playoffs. Because they're Pacific Division rivals, they played each other 4 times this year, and the Warriors got the best of them going 3-1. However, it's really more like 2-1 because the third Warriors victory came on April 7th when the Kings were resting their starters. The 3 games before that April matchup were played in October and November, so we really do not have much to go off in terms of predicting the series. The Warriors' biggest problem is winning on the road, and it has been all season long as they've gone 11-30 in road games this year. The Kings counter that by having the second best road record in all of basketball at 25-16. The mix of that solid road record and the electric crowd in Sacramento gives them a slight edge in this series, but for some reason, I just trust the Warriors to win this. The amount of playoff experience on this Warriors team is absolutely unreal, and they constantly step up when it matters most. I think it'll be a super hard-fought series with clutch plays coming from both teams, but in the end, I have the Warriors winning in Sacramento in Game 7 and moving on to face the Memphis Grizzlies. And so the final first-round series in the West is the Suns versus the Clippers. The Clippers look solid going into the year and were one of the big favorites this season, but once again, injuries plagued them, and this time it's Paul George who has set them as the first round. Westbrook and Kawhi have stepped up with him out to keep them in the upper half of the West, but the Suns are just going to be too much for them. They are yet to lose with KD on the court, and without Paul George to help defensively, the Suns offense is going to be way too dominant to keep up with. I had the Suns easily winning the series, but the Clippers should be able to pick up at least one game, leaving the Suns to end it at home in Game 5. Now onto the Eastern Conference, and we've yet again got the Bucks facing the Heat in a playoff series. In my opinion, this is the easiest series for me to predict, and I'm just giving the Bucks this one in 5 games. The Heat will most likely steal at least one and should give them some competitive games, but they are 25th in offensive rating this season, and the Bucks are 4th in defensive rating, which is just a disaster waiting to happen. They might score under 100 points in 3 out of 5 of these games, and it would not shock me at all if that happened. The Bucks are just way too dominant, and I think they'll easily make their way onto the second round. The next series between the Hawks and Celtics is a similar story. The Celtics swept the season series going 3-0 against the Hawks, and I think we'll see a sweep here again. The Celtics are incredible playoff performance, and we saw that last year as they made their way to the finals and destroyed the Nets in the first round. The Hawks had a good performance in the play-in, but the Celtics are miles better than the Heat, and this one will be over quickly. The Hawks do not have the personnel to defend this Celtics team, and the Celtics guards will destroy Trae and DeJounte to secure their spot in the second round. Up next is yet another series that I don't think will be a long one. The 3-seeded Sixers match up with the 6-seeded Nets, and I think Joel Embiid will absolutely dominate this series. He averaged 31.5 points and 11.5 rebounds against the Nets in the 2 games they played this season, and I think we'll see more of the same. I don't think it'll be a sweep though, as I think Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson have a big game in them to lead the Nets to a victory. They'll need to find a star in the offseason if they want to compete, but this year I have the Sixers beating them in 5 and moving on to an absolutely unreal matchup between them and the 2-seeded Celtics. And finally is a series that could be the matchup of the entire first round, and is between the 4-seeded Cleveland Cavaliers and the 5-seeded New York Knicks. Last time these two faced off was just a couple weeks ago, and it ended up becoming an absolute battle between Donovan Mitchell and Jalen Brunson, who both dropped 40 points. The atmosphere in MSG is going to be absolutely electric, but I think in the end, we're going to see a young Cavs team come out on top. Their starting 5 is one of the most complete in all of basketball, and pair that with the fact that their role players are shooting efficiently from 3, it's going to be a nightmare to defend. That being said, I don't think it'll be easy for the Cavs, and I fully expect the series to go at least 6 games, and the NBA fan in me wants to say it'll go 7, but I just think this Cavs team is too strong. I cannot wait to see playoff basketball in Madison Square Garden, but in my opinion, that series victory for the Knicks is going to have to wait yet another year. Now, onto the second round, I have the Nuggets matching up with the Suns. The Nuggets in the regular season were absolutely dominant, but with how hot the Suns were ending the season, and if they walk through the first round like I expect them to, I just can't see them being stopped. Jokic will absolutely feast on Ayton just like he did earlier this year, as he averaged 31 points, 17 boards, and 12 assists in the 2 games he played against them. There's no doubt he'll put up some monster stat lines, but I think this Phoenix team will just overwhelm them. I have the Suns winning in 6 games, and this year, they'll be the 4 seed to make it through to the Western Conference Finals. Now we'll move on to a rematch from last year's playoffs, as I have the Grizzlies facing the Warriors. Once again, just an incredible series with so many different storylines coming from it. These include Steph's chance at a 5th ring, Ja's chance at his first Western Conference Finals, and the Grizzlies' shot at revenge. The series is 2-2 this year, with each team winning their 2 home games. For as much as I want to take the Grizzlies and have thoughts that they could be a tough team to beat, Andrew Wiggins returning is just such a huge factor for them, and it makes me lean towards the Warriors. Adding that extra option on offense, and by no means a poor defender, back into the lineup, it just gives me confidence in the Warriors to do it again. I think they'll steal 1 road game from the Grizzlies, finish the series at home in Game 6, and march their way back to the Western Conference Finals. Now, onto the Eastern Conference, we have the 1-seeded Bucks facing the 4-seeded Cavs. During the regular season, they went 2-2 against each other, which makes this matchup even more exciting. The dominance of Giannis will be met with the elite paint defense that Jarrett Allen and Evan Mobley bring. Giannis still averaged 33 points, 12 boards, and 6 assists in the 3 games he played against them this year, despite this defense, but it only takes 1 slightly below average game from him to have the Cavs steal a win. Because of how close their games were this year, and because I think the matchups are just so even, I'm going to say this one's going to go to 7, but the Bucks will get a win at home in Game 7 to take themselves back to the Eastern Conference Finals. The other 2 teams I have battling it out to head to the conference finals are the Celtics and the Sixers. This series will be an absolute dogfight between the MVP favorite with his best chance of a ring so far versus the defending Eastern Conference champs who want to get back to the finals. The Celtics won the season series against the Sixers this year, going 3-1. It took one of the best games of Joel Embiid's career just to beat them by 2 in their final matchups, and that is why I have the Celtics eventually winning this series. They dominated against the Sixers this year, and I think they'll win, but in playoff basketball, it won't be easy. I have it going to 7 games with the Celtics knocking out the Sixers at home and heading back to the Eastern Conference Finals for yet another playoff matchup with the Bucks. In what would be one of the lowest seeded conference finals matchups in the history of the NBA, I have the 4-seeded Suns facing off against Kevin Durant's old team, the Golden State Warriors. This series will be a battle, and with how intense Booker, Chris Paul, Klay, and Draymond are, I would not be surprised at all if this series sees some fireworks and a lot of trash talk. The Suns actually went 3-1 against the Warriors this season, and with the addition of Kevin Durant, I think this just puts them over the edge, and they'll come out on top in this one. As they always do, the Warriors will put up a tough fight, and I think we'll see multiple games come down to the wire. In the end though, the dominance of the Suns will continue, and I believe they'll take out the Warriors in 6 games. So the battle to meet the Suns in the finals is between the Bucks and the Celtics. The Celtics won the season series 2-1, including an absolute destruction of the Bucks in March as they took a 40-point victory. When they met in the last playoffs, they went to 7 games, and I think it's going to happen again. These teams are so evenly matched, and it's just a tough series to predict. However, there has to be a winner, and I have the Bucks getting revenge for last year and coming out on top at home in Game 7. The main reason I decided to go with them is because of the return of Chris Middleton. He has shown he could show up during the playoffs and outscored Giannis in the finals multiple times. He has not been playing as many minutes ever since he came back from injury, but that will change in the playoffs, and he will be one of the main reasons that the Bucks head back to the finals for a rematch with the Suns. And so in the finals, I have the 4-seeded Suns out of the West and the 1-seeded Bucks from the East. A rematch of the 2021 finals, but this time the Suns have added Kevin Durant. He is a massive difference for the Suns in this rematch, but the Bucks have their own difference makers too. Brook Lopez is playing out of this world and is a top candidate for Defensive Player of the Year. They also added Jay Crowder, who has tons of experience in big games and can be a crucial defensive asset for any team come playoff time. The Bucks won both games against the Sun this year, but with Durant being there, it will not be that easy. If this series happens, there's almost no doubt that he would go to 7 games, and because of that, I'm going to take the Bucks. A Game 7 at home is one of the biggest advantages in all of sports, and I think the Bucks will use that to their advantage and win their 2nd championship in 3 years. This would be massive for the legacy of Giannis and could quite possibly move him into top 10 on some all-time player rankings. It would leave him with 2 MVPs, a DPOY, 2 rings, and presumably 2 Finals MVPs. That is more than a Hall of Fame career already, and he's only 10 seasons into his career. So there you have it. Those are my entire 2023 playoff predictions. Do you guys agree with my pick to win it all? If not, be sure to let me know who you picked, who they'll beat, and in how many games. I've got some ideas planned out for the offseason, but if you guys have any suggestions, be sure to let me know in the comments. As always, if you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like, subscribe for more content like this, and thank you so much for watching.